Their eyes meet, and for a moment, the air feels heavy like a storm about to break. Epherene frowns, confused. She does not know why Sylvia is acting like this today. It feels like Sylvia wants to start a fight, and it is the worst time for it. Epherene just wants to be left alone. Sylvia grows frustrated because Epherene stays silent. She asks if Epherene is getting private lessons from Professor Deculein. The moment Epherene hears this, her frustration rises. Her anger spills out because she cannot hold it in anymore. If Sylvia wants to fight, Epherene feels ready to fight too. She wonders why Sylvia would say something like that. Memories of Professor Deculein come back, and they hurt. She knows she would never agree to let him tutor her alone. A heavy feeling presses on her chest. She feels cornered and wonders why everyone is bothering her today. Sylvia looks at Epherene, trying to see if she is telling the truth. She realizes Epherene is not lying, and her tone softens. In her usual tender way, Sylvia huffs and says she understands and that it does not matter because she has no authority anyway. Epherene tries to catch her breath, but Sylvia says something that makes her freeze. Sylvia tells her that after Epherene's father died, Professor Deculein did not step into the lab for 3 years. Epherene says that is obvious. Deculein could not do anything without her father, who was a genius and the reason the lab worked. Sylvia explains that around 3 months ago, Deculein started going to the lab every day. The words hit Epherene like a lightning bolt, and her mind goes blank. Sylvia continues, saying that Deculein has been cleaning the lab, hiring a new assistant professor, and buying a lot of magic equipment. Sylvia then tilts her head and gives a small, smug smile and asks Epherene what does she think this means. Epherene does not respond right away. Her mind spins and she feels stunned by what Sylvia just told her. Thoughts rush through her head, showing her images of Deculein standing in that familiar lab, working on the same research her father left unfinished. The idea feels wrong in her chest. She tells herself there is no way this could be true. She thinks that Deculein is not even smart enough to complete that research alone, and if he was, he would not have needed her father at all. Her memories of Deculein remain unpleasant, and the thought of him stepping into her father's place brings a bitter taste. She clenches her fist tightly, trying to hide the turmoil growing inside her. She answers Sylvia in a calm voice, saying maybe Deculein is just playing around with old experiments since he is a senior professor, and tells Sylvia that it has nothing to do with her. Sylvia smirks but does not call her out on the lie. She only says that she thought Epherene should know about it. Sylvia then turns and walks away, leaving Epherene standing alone with her tangled thoughts and the heavy feeling pressing on her chest. It is Wednesday, and the time for the final lecture before midterms. Professor Deculein's class gathers on the 5th floor, a space prepared for live training exercises. The professor has not arrived yet, and the students are waiting. Julia leans in close to Epherene and quietly asks if she knows what kind of training Professor Deculein is planning or why he has brought them all the way up here. Epherene shakes her head and says she does not know. Julia mumbles that he is probably planning something again. At that moment, Beck pushes past Julia without offering any apology. He acts like a brat and shows no respect to those around him. Julia shouts in anger, calling him out to act like an arrogant noble. Epherene walks over to Julia and tries to calm her down. She tells her to let it go because Beck is not worth the anger or the energy it takes to get upset over him. At exactly 3 in the afternoon, Deculein appears at the entrance and walks to the center of the stage. He looks down at the gathered students and tells the class to quiet down because it is time to begin. The chatter stops at once. He reminds them that today is their final hands-on training before the midterms and tells them they will be doing a public mock exam. He snaps his fingers, and the curtains around the arena rise, revealing a space so large that the end cannot be seen. The ceiling forms a dome above them, and the battlefield stretches out like a long rectangle. The spectator stands are filled with people, and the sight leaves every student stunned, including Epherene, who is standing with her mouth slightly open and her eyes wide. The students murmur among themselves, wondering about the size of the crowd that has come to watch them. Even the experienced mages nearby look surprised, but they fall silent when Deculein begins to speak again. He explains that participating in a magic duel is something every wizard will face one day, even if they wish to avoid it. He says this is why he has brought in an audience to let them feel the pressure they will face in the future. Deculein goes on to explain the rules. The students may use any magic they know to fight, but they must use at least 3 pure elemental spells during the duel. He tells them not to worry about winning or losing but to focus on the fight itself. He says he will be observing them, taking notes on their strengths and weaknesses, and expects each of them to grow from this evaluation. He then calls Professor Relin to the stage. Relin hurries up, scratching his head with a shy look as many eyes turn toward him, both from students and the mages present. Deculein says that Professor Relin will act as the referee to prevent serious injuries or accidents during the matches and tells the students to let go of their nerves and give their best effort. Relin adds with a small laugh that he can leave the rest to him. Deculein gives a clear command, telling the class that it is time to begin. He calls for Eurozan to come forward first. Eurozan answers with a nervous yes. Deculein tells him to choose his opponent from the students gathered. Eurozan hesitates for a moment, looking around, but then chooses one of his friends to fight against. Both students take their positions on the field, and Deculein raises his voice to announce that they have 3 minutes to fight. The moment Deculein finishes speaking, the chosen student attacks first, casting a blazing fire spell that spreads wide like a curtain and rushes toward Eurozan. Seeing the fire closing in, Eurozan reacts fast and blocks it with a water spell. He then counters with wind magic that pushes back hard. The crowd watches closely as their spells clash in the open arena. The magic matches continue one after another. In the beginning, the students look awkward and unsure because they are not used to fighting like this in front of so many people. Step by step, they begin to understand how to focus on casting, how to break each other's spells, and how to defend themselves at the same time. Next in line is Sylvia. She steps forward with confidence and picks a commoner as her opponent without any fear. The moment they face each other, both launch pure elemental magic. But the difference between their power levels is too much. Sylvia is way more powerful and has great control over her magic. Within just 10 seconds, the commoner's support magic breaks apart under strong attacks from Sylvia, and she easily finishes him in a clear victory. The crowd hears Deculein announcing Sylvia as the winner. The commoner students continue to fall in their matches, and watching this, Beck, one of the arrogant nobles, lets out a laugh that drips with mockery. He talks about how another commoner has failed and says they should just work as servants for his family instead of wasting their time at the magic tower, calling them stupid and pathetic. Off to the side, Epherene clenches her fists, anger rising at the sound of someone laughing at another's effort and failure. She thinks that if any of them had to face Sylvia, they would also be defeated without a chance. Trying to stay calm, she turns to Parrot, the defeated student, and tells him to keep his chin up, reminding him that he did great and has nothing to feel ashamed about. Deculein seems unfazed by the loud comments from the students around him. He simply announces the next match and tells Beck to choose his opponent. Beck pauses for a moment, thinking with a smug grin on his face. He then points straight at Epherene and calls her as his opponent. Epherene feels a spark of excitement inside her because she has been waiting for a chance to put Beck in his place. Beck looks at her with a sneer, clearly underestimating her. He taunts her with words, saying she will not have any secret tutor to help her now. Epherene feels unimpressed and fires back with her own words, telling him his insults are boring and his imitation of Deculein is even worse. Beck gets angry and demands she repeat herself, but Epherene does not waste her time replying. She lifts her hand and her magic ring shines with a strong blue energy, ready to show him how weak his so-called magic truly is. Without hesitation, she charges forward. Beck refuses to back down, running toward her while shouting that he will send her to meet her parents in death. He finishes his words and quickly casts an earth spell, hurling a massive rock sphere toward Epherene. The sphere races toward her with terrifying speed, exploding on impact and tearing the ground apart, sending dust and rubble into the air. Beck believes he has already won, and a proud smirk appears on his face as he mocks Epherene for thinking she could beat him. However, his moment of pride is cut short when a sudden surge of blue energy breaks through his spell, overpowering his magic completely. He tries to take control of his spell again, but it is already too late. Epherene remembers an old saying often whispered in the halls of the magic tower, a saying that has always stayed with her. It says that all nobles deserve to get punched in the face. She calls forth a massive hand made of roaring wind. The hand forms in the air, swings forward, and smashes Beck, lifting him off his feet and sending him flying through the air like a rag doll. From the sidelines, Julia shouts with excitement, unable to hide how impressed she feels seeing Epherene use such a strong spell. She tries to understand how Epherene managed to cast something so powerful. Beck crashes to the ground with a heavy thud that shakes the dirt around him. The impact is so harsh that tears roll down his face, and he cries openly, unable to hide his pain in front of everyone. Epherene walks over to him with calm steps, her hands resting on her hips as she looks down at him. She tells him it must feel fun to get stomped into the ground like the bug he is. Beck turns his face away, gritting his teeth with anger and shame, and mutters under his breath that she just got lucky. Deculein's voice rings out across the arena, announcing that Epherene is the winner. He then looks around at the class and the audience, his eyes showing clear disappointment. He tells them that many of them think too highly of themselves, yet they are defeated after doing almost nothing. He reminds them that he invited spectators and magicians to watch this training, and he calls their weak performance pathetic. The students can feel it. Their professor is not happy with them. At that moment, an idea sparks in Epherene's mind, and she raises her hand to speak. She tells Deculein that she wants another chance. Deculein looks at her with curiosity, waiting for her reason. Epherene explains that they were supposed to cast 3 pure elemental spells during the sparring session, but she was only able to cast 1, because her opponent was too weak, and the match ended before she could complete the assignment. Beck hears her words and wishes he could disappear, feeling the sting of humiliation in front of everyone. Deculein nods in understanding and says he sees what she means, agreeing that the fault lies with her opponent and not her effort. He also says it would be unfair to evaluate her based on an incomplete match. He tells her she may choose anyone for her next opponent. Epherene was waiting for this. Without hesitation, Epherene lifts her hand and points directly at him. She says she wants to fight Chief Professor Deculein. Epherene has always held a single goal deep in her heart, to prove herself by defeating Deculein with her own power. She knows she still has a long way to go, but she needs to see for herself how far the distance truly is between them. The only way to know that is to challenge him directly here and now in front of everyone. A gasp spreads across the arena, echoing through the students and mages watching. The moment she speaks about her choice, every person in the arena turns to stare at her, looking at her as if she has lost her mind. Whispers move through the crowd quickly, people saying she must have gone crazy for challenging the chief professor. Professor Relin shouts in disbelief and calls her a reckless brat. He tells her to get down immediately. From afar, even Sylvia watches with wide eyes, convinced that Epherene has lost her senses for daring to challenge Deculein. Epherene feels the mocking, condescending stares pressing on her from all sides. The weight of their disbelief fills the air around her. She does not lower her arm, nor does she take a step back. She stays rooted in place, calm and focused on her thoughts. She tells herself that this is what she expected, everyone looking shocked and calling her foolish. But she knows she is not someone who would do something so bold without a reason. She does not care about winning or losing. Her only goal, the goal she has held close all her life, is to defeat Deculein using her own strength. This is a chance, a real chance, to face him directly. If she can take this chance, she will finally see with her own eyes the true distance between them. Even if everyone sees her as a reckless fool or calls her insane, none of that matters to her. Her eyes hold a steady and burning resolve that does not shake under the weight of the crowd's judgment. Seeing the determination in her eyes, Deculein feels a faint smile form on his lips. A curiosity grows inside him, wondering what she has prepared that gives her this level of confidence. Professor Relin, on the other hand, does not stop his outburst. He continues to shout at Epherene, calling her foolish and demanding that she get down immediately. He sounds rough and harsh, sharper than any scolding he has given before. Epherene turns red, her cheeks hot from the embarrassment and the pressure pressing down on her. She feels the heavy eyes of everyone watching and senses their disbelief, thinking that she must be out of her mind for standing up to Deculein like this. People in the crowd murmur, saying they have never seen something so crazy before, and that the girl does not understand what she is getting herself into. Deculein cuts through the noise with a sharp tone. He tells Professor Relin to calm down. Relin freezes in place. He tries to argue, but the cold look in the eyes of Deculein is like a blade of ice running down his spine that forces him to fall silent immediately. With Relin silenced, Deculein calmly walks toward Epherene and stops just a few feet in front of her. Then, in a clear and strong tone as he tells her that he accepts her challenge, he reminds everyone that he had said she could choose anyone to be her opponent, with no exceptions, and because of that, he will face her himself. A wave of murmurs moves through the crowd, rippling from student to student and reaching even the mages watching from the sides. Deculein continues speaking without pausing, telling everyone that it would not be fair for a professor to attack a student without limits. He explains what he will do to keep the match fair. He says he will not attack during the duel. If Epherene can make him move even a single inch, she will win the match. Epherene clenches her fists tightly, nods, and accepts the condition without hesitation. She stands facing Deculein, their eyes locking onto each other. The arena falls into a heavy silence, every sound disappearing under the weight of the moment. She feels the loud pounding of her heart inside her chest, a drum that will not stop. No matter how loud it is, she knows this moment is real. It is a moment of hope for her, a small dream coming true as she stands ready to duel Deculein one-on-one. She channels her mana into the bracelet wrapped around her wrist, focusing her mind and steadying her breath as she prepares. She knows she cannot act carelessly, and she gathers every bit of her concentration. Seeing that Epherene is ready, Deculein raises his voice so all can hear and announces the duel begins. The moment Deculein announces that, Epherene releases a flurry of wind arrows from 4 different directions toward him. She understands well the overwhelming gap in magical power between them and knows she cannot truly harm him. This does not stop her. She refuses to give up without a fight. This moment is a rare chance for her, a chance to test herself against the one opponent she has always dreamed of defeating, Deculein. She wants to see with her own eyes how vast the distance between them truly is. With all the strength she has, Epherene channels her mana to create a blazing flame spell. She merges the fire with the wind, turning it into a powerful mid-tier magic attack. Deculein knows exactly what she is doing, but he only watches with a small, intrigued smile. He does not even try to defend himself. Flames swirl around Deculein, rising violently until they form a thick inferno that hides him completely from view. But Epherene does not stop. She pushes more mana into her spell and begins her third incantation, calling the element of earth to join the attack. Embers scatter through the air, feeding the fire and making the flames grow even larger. Her magic swallows the entire stage. Wind, fire, earth, air, space, and even silence are consumed by the explosions that follow. One blast after another tears through the arena, sending shockwaves across the field. The booming sounds echo, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. Even Professor Relin feels rattled by the sheer power of her spell. The intensity and heat of her attack go far beyond what any teacher or student in the arena had expected to witness that day. Epherene has grown skilled at crafting deadly elemental combinations. She has learned how to combine 3 core elements into a single chain reaction, turning pure elemental magic into a destructive force, a spell capable of true devastation. Using nearly all of her mana, she finally stops and looks toward the place where Deculein stands. All she sees is the blazing fire, burning so brightly that it blocks everything else from view. A thought enters her mind, wondering if he managed to escape such a powerful attack. She tells herself not to lower her guard. At the same time, another thought comes to her, asking herself if she has truly managed to beat him. She does not worry about his safety, but she needs to know the answer. A cold gust of wind suddenly moves through the smoke, pushing it aside and revealing what looks like a hardened shell, glowing and cracked like cooled magma. The shell splits open, falling apart like a broken seashell. From within appears Deculein, standing tall and completely unharmed. Not a single hair on his head is out of place, and not a single speck of dust can be seen on him. He stands there calmly, his eyes fixed on Epherene with an unreadable expression. Standing there facing Deculein, Epherene suddenly feels like a child playing a game far too big for her to understand. Her lips tighten and her teeth press together as she tries to swallow that feeling. She refuses to stop. Gritting her teeth, she gathers her strength and launches another attack. This time, countless winged bullets burst through the air, scattering like sharp magical shards and fly straight toward Deculein. The bullets cut through the air with force, but once they reach the space around Deculein, they freeze. Every single one stops in place midair, as if caught by an invisible hand. That moment proves something clear to Epherene. The control of her own spells has been completely taken over. Deculein does not destroy them or counter them directly. He had promised not to attack, and he keeps that promise. Instead, he watches calmly, studying the flow of her chain magic and reading every move through his special vision skill. He points out in a calm, precise voice that her magic has a clear habit that appears the longer her incantation grows. That habit makes it easy to see through her spell's structure and weakness. The powerful analytical skill of Deculein breaks down her magic step by step until its core stands open to him. Epherene is shocked. She understands what he has done. She realizes her spells have been stopped by his mana, which has slipped into her magic and has broken it apart without her even noticing. She still refuses to give in. She tries to cast another spell, pushing her mana forward to shape her next attack. But nothing happens. Her magic does not respond, as if her own power has turned away from her. A quiet thought fills her mind. She asks herself if Deculein has already seen through her entire magic circle. Deculein tells her that she will not be able to chant another spell in front of him. Epherene curses inside, feeling the bitter truth settle in her chest as she clenches her teeth. She realizes that Deculein has completely shut down her ability to cast magic. She refuses to quit. If her spells will not work, she decides to rely on her final plan. She will take away his time and space. A thought grows inside her mind that if she can close the distance and keep moving forward, she might be able to stop him from dismantling or disrupting her spells. Epherene is not a weak mage who barely made it through graduation. She has trained her body with the same dedication as her mind. Physical combat and speed are part of her daily life, and she trusts her agility more than anything else. With acceleration magic boosting her body, Epherene pushes forward, crossing the arena in a single breath. Her plan is clear: to release her spell at point-blank range, too close for Deculein to block or suppress it in time. She moves quickly, closing the gap with determination. Just as she reaches him, Deculein lifts a finger calmly, and with a flick so light it looks like he is pushing a cart, he sends her flying. Epherene lifts off the ground, thrown into the air like a bird with broken wings, before crashing down hard onto the ground. She lies there, dazed and unable to move, with nothing but the loud ringing in her ears filling the empty space around her. Deculein stands still, deep in thought as he reviews what he has just seen. He considers Epherene's elemental combinations, noting how her blend of fire and wind was near perfect and impressive, even by his high standards. He thinks about how she used pure elemental magic to create an explosion that blocked the line of sight, showing that her ability to sense mana is sharp and well-trained. Yet he knows that no matter how sharp someone's senses are, without the control to command the elements, it would be impossible to cast them effectively. He understands that the key to mastering this control lies in her talent and her connection to the flow of mana around her. He also notices how her elemental synergy was enhanced by the bracelet she wore, recognizing that the artifact alone is valuable enough for any wizard to fight to the death to obtain. Considering her current abilities, he acknowledges that her performance today is remarkable, and that it would not be surprising for someone like her to follow the path of her story and achieve great things in the future. With these thoughts in mind, Deculein walks over to where Epherene lies and stands before her. Then, in a soft voice, he tells her that the outcome of the match was clear, but she did great. The words hit Epherene like a sudden spell, leaving her blinking in stunned silence. She has always wanted to surpass him, and to hear praise and acknowledgement from him is something she is not prepared for. Deculein then turns to the watching crowd and tells them coldly that the public combat training has concluded. He instructs the first-year students to focus on preparing for their upcoming exams before turning away and leaving the stage. Murmurs quickly spread through the crowd, voices filled with shock and disbelief. Students wonder aloud if they heard correctly, realizing that Professor Deculein actually praised someone. Some say they did not expect Epherene to show such strength, especially after her earlier match with Beck, which many found boring. Beck hears these voices but stays completely silent, unable to gather the courage to speak like he used to. Epherene sits there for a moment, dazed, until a slow smile spreads across her face. She whispers to herself that he acknowledged her strength. This makes her feel a fire inside her grow stronger than ever. Moments later, Julia and a few of Epherene's close friends run over to her, excited and full of energy. They tell her she was amazing out there, and that she has become the pride of all the commoner students, praising her for what she has shown to everyone. Meanwhile, in a seaside city far from the academy, a place under the control of a noble family from the Western Empire, the Redstone Adventurer Party is stationed at the busy port. Lady Ganesha is standing on the dock. She points toward a ship on the horizon with a wide grin as she watches it approach and says, "Here they come." The ship slowly docks, and two kids rush down the ramp with eager smiles, their excitement clear in their quick steps. Ganesha lets out a hearty laugh when she sees them, greeting Leo and Carlos warmly, asking if they have been doing well since the last time they met. Another voice calls out to her, saying it's been a while. Ganesha spreads her arms at the sound of that familiar voice and greets Yuria, asking if she has missed her. Yuria rubs her head, chuckles and replies a little maybe. She has dark hair and brown eyes, and her youthful appearance holds a calm presence. She is one of the 3 gifted individuals Ganesha once took in from a remote island, and despite looking young, she carries the soul and calm of an adult. In the world before arriving here, Yuria had been Kim Woojin's girlfriend, the man who is now known as Deculein in this world. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button as today's goal is 1,500 likes. Comment next part down below for the next part. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.